This is part 2 of a 2-part video. I will link the first part in the description box below and in this video as well. Make sure to watch that first so this one makes sense. All right, on to the video. I'm using some 5-petal cutters and I've got just an assortment of sizes here. For the small to mid-size eyeballs, I'm going to start with the smallest cutter. The size of the eyeball should be just about the same size as one of the petals. And then I have some larger eyeballs as well. And I think I'm going to end up using this size as the smallest size. I have my 2 colors here that I colored the other day. This one is the more bluish purple, and that is called deep purple. And then the violet is this more bright purple. Let's start with violet and grab some shortening onto my hands. Give that a quick knead until it is silky and smooth. Then we're going to roll that through the pasta machine to a number 5. That is rolled out thin enough, adding a touch of cornstarch as usual onto the surface of my gum paste before I put it through the pasta machine. So for my small eyeballs, I've got 1, 2, 3, so I need 3 of these sizes. Let's cut out 3 of this size, and I will of course link all of these rose cutters and everything else I'm using in the video in the description box below. So place that under your double piece of plastic wrap. And for the small roses, we will also need 1 each of the next size up. If your petal is stuck inside, don't forget to rub the cutter on the palm of your hand, and that should give you a nice clean cut. Also, the next size up, we will need 3 petals. So start with your foam mat, and we'll need the same tools as I use for my classic spray roses. So just a ball tool, a veining tool, and you'll need some water or gum glue. So shaping these petals will be the same no matter the size. Grab your 3 petals for the small flowers. Let's start by thinning out all of the edges. Next, grab your veining tool and bring that petal to the edge of your mat. And then just gently vein back and forth. You have to be a little more careful with these saturated petals. As soon as you start kneading in more of that color, it can degrade the texture of your gum paste slightly. So it's a little more prone to tearing. Just don't press down quite as hard as you would with a lighter color, that's all. And if it's sticking at all, just put a dab of shortening onto your veining tool. And lastly, our large petal. Try and keep all the pressure on the outside edge as opposed to the middle so that it can keep its integrity there. All of our petals are now ready. We just need to add our gum glue or water. I'm just using water today because I ran out of gum glue. We want to put a good amount into the center, but not enough that it's going to start slipping around once we attach it onto the eye. So just make sure that it's a nice even layer. And then go up about halfway onto the edges of your petals. Again, trying to make sure that you don't add too much so the petals don't start sliding or dissolving. So grab one of your smaller eyeballs, and then we are going to thread this on. This one's breaking a little bit, but it's fine. We are going to work through it. First, we want to attach the eyelids. So we need 2 petals on opposite sides of one another. So you just might have to shift that around a little bit. And you want them to come just so they look like they're barely hugging the iris part. Hopefully you can see how those petals are attached. And that one's falling a little bit, so let's add a touch more of the gum glue. Just make sure that's fully attached. Then we can just attach the remaining petals around. It doesn't really matter where they go. Grab a toothpick, fold out the two sides of your edges to make a point in the center. So start with those 3 outer petals, and then lastly we'll do the eyelids. So we just want it to look like the edges are just coming slightly over the iris. Don't have to be perfect, of course. Let's add our next set of petals. So just giving them a firm press on the outside so that none of them start falling off. And I do go in the same direction for each of the petals as I do for my classic spray roses. So if we're looking from the top, we're gonna do 5, 4, 2, and then 3 and 1 on the outside. Then we can fold those petals back and also double check that none of them are falling off. Otherwise we can add a dab of the water or gum glue. I think these are drying out just a bit, so I'm gonna add a touch more glue before I try and attach it. It would also look nice as this size as well, if you wanna do a few smaller and a few larger ones. So again, we're going 5, 4, 2, and then 3 and 1 on the outside. So just give those a really firm press so that nothing's falling off. And then we can curl those edges outwards. And I was working a little slow here because I was describing everything, but your petals, if you're working fairly quickly, they shouldn't dry out. If you find that they are, just work with fewer at a time. Work with 1 or 2 at a time instead of working with 3 at a time. Great. So I'm just gonna pinch a couple of these edges and we'll be good to go. So you can, if you find your petals are staying up well, you don't have to dry it sideways or upside down or anything. But these ones I feel like are falling a little bit. So I'm gonna allow that to dry horizontally just until those petals are set, and then we can bring it back vertically. Next up, let's roll our deep purple gum paste out. Then we can cut those and attach those on to our red eyeballs. Tell me in the comments what color eye and petal combination you would make if you were making these. I'm not very big on using bold and bright colors often, but whenever I do, it's so much fun. So maybe I should just do that more often. I'll start by picking out a few colors for these roses. I'm going to need a nice deep purple, like this King's Robe. I might also want a color to deepen that, like this Turkish black, and maybe one color a bit lighter to do some highlights. Let's pick a nice purple pink color. I'm gonna choose this fuchsia purple. For our blue eyeballs, I have this color Mona Lisa, which is going to be awesome for this. And then we're gonna also need the Turkish black to deepen it. I think we might also use this King's Robe as the highlight color. I also have a fine flat brush here, and I'm gonna use this for both of the colors. We're gonna start with purple since it's slightly lighter, and then we'll move to the blue. Put some cornstarch on your surface. We won't need to dilute these colors a lot because we're going for fairly saturated colors here. Just bring a little bit of that to the side. We're going to want to shade just darker than the gum paste color. Let's start with the King's Robe and incorporate a very small amount of cornstarch with that, which will just help with the application, making it a bit smoother. All right, let's start with the crevice areas first. So anywhere you see a shadow, just go ahead and dab your brush in there. We're already getting a nice deep color here. I'm gonna go in with a bit of that fuchsia purple. I'm gonna use this as a highlighter color. So just on any areas where you see the lightest parts of the flower, just add a touch of that. So we really want these colors to pop. So we add the highlights, we add the lowlights, and then we have our nice saturated purple color that we started with. Perfect. And if we did want to add just one more layer of depth, we could grab a bit of this Turkish black and mix it with the King's Robe color and go along some of those edges to really bring them out. So go for all those damaged areas and the tips of those petals as well. Again, we want to start with a shade just darker than this original gum paste color. So let's start with the Mona Lisa color and we'll see how that's looking. I think it's already a great base color. You don't have to mix and match anything. Just a tiny bit of cornstarch in there to help apply more smoothly. The Mona Lisa color will be our shadow color. The King's Robe color is going to be our highlight color. And then we're going to go ahead and add a bit of the Turkish black just to the edges to help it pop a bit more. Let's start with those shadows again. It's always nice when you can find a dust that's exactly what you need, but if you can't, or if you don't want to invest in so many dusts to start with, you can just start with your primary colors and then work out from there, because with your primary colors, you can make basically any color that you need. Some of the brighter colors are going to be difficult to get, but as a basic palette, I think you can get like 95% of the colors you're going to need just from your primary and maybe secondary colors. This one's looking great. We've added the Mona Lisa to the petals. Now let's grab a bit of King's Robe and do some highlights here. The highlights aren't very noticeable, but it really does help give it some contrast, so it's not flat looking. When you do just dust with one color, it can kind of look flat and chalky. I find when you can add a couple colors, just layer them on, it really does help. And finish off with a bit of the black on those edges. Tell me in the comments below, what kind of cake would you add these awesome eyeball roses onto? I would love to hear your ideas. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Grab everything you're gonna need to make this whole tutorial in the description box below, and have a happy Halloween.